Wow, what a great audience. Hi, everyone. Greetings. Welcome. I'm Colleen Cosmo Murphy, the founder of Classic Album Sundays, which is an event platform that I founded back in 2010 that celebrates the album format, vinyl records, and deep and communal listening. We tell the stories behind some of your favorite albums. And we do so through our listening events, but also our website. And our website has artist interview videos, podcasts, playlists, and blogs. And you can also sign up for our mailing list to stay on top of all of our events. I also host monthly online album club sessions, started during the pandemic, and it's still going. And it's for our Patreon members. So if you want to become a Patreon member and join us each month online, head over to Patreon Classic Album Sundays to sign up and subscribe. It's great to be back here at the British Library. I've hosted a lot of events with different musicians like The Dam, the Buzzcocks, Roisin Murphy, John Grant, Louis Vega, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, Laurie Anderson, and so many more. The British Library is the National Library of the United Kingdom, and it's famous for being the home of everything from the Magna Carta to Shakespeare's First Folio to handwritten Beatles lyrics. But it also hosts the world's great sound collections, from natural sounds to spoken word and oral history, and of course, a vast music archive. The library constantly works to promote and explore music cultures, and recently presented a major exhibition and events program called Beyond the Baseline, 500 Years of Black British Music, which included the last Classic Album Sundays held here in this theater, in which my special guest was Eddie Grant, who regaled us with stories about his incredible life and his incredible career. Tonight's Classic Album Sunday session is in celebration of National Album Day, which is this coming Saturday, the 19th of October. Now in its 7th year, National Album Day pays tribute to the art of the album. And this year's theme is Great British Groups, which certainly describes tonight's guests. If you want to find out more about National Album Day, its exclusive vinyl releases, its events program, and the BBC programming, head over to National Album Day's website. This evening, we'll be immersing ourselves into Saint Etienne's debut, played uninterrupted and in its entirety on our world-class audiophile sound system, featuring these Stanley shark fin loudspeakers, which are a bit like War of the Worlds. And their patented technology reaches the hearts and ears with its high quality and high impact sound. And it should transform the listening experience so that you hear details in the recording you may not have heard before. They also have a new range of home and hi-fi speakers. And if you want to find out more, the man in the cap, that Scottish guy right there, Ian Mackey, can tell you more at the end of the session. Tonight's featured album is a great British classic. And when it came out in 1991, I used to listen to it on my Sony CD Walkman, walking around New York City. And I kind of felt like I had dropped into London for 48 minutes. I hadn't really been to London. I only knew London through music. But Foxbase Alpha was my fantasy London. And I also connected with it because I shared the same musical touch points. I was an indie kid, obsessed with 60s rock and pop, who had just immersed themselves into the nocturnal world of dance music and club culture. The album weaves together many of my own personal musical obsessions and is evocative of a certain time and place. It's very precious to me, as I know it is for so many of you in this room. So please join me in a warm welcome to its creators, Sarah Cracknell, Bob Stanley, and Pete Wiggs of Saint Etienne. Well, on behalf of everyone here, thank you so much for taking the time to share the stories behind this amazing debut album. I know everybody here is thrilled, so we really appreciate it. Now, in the 1980s, Bob, you worked in record shops like I did in the 1980s, and you wrote for fanzines, and including Calf, a zine that you put together with your childhood friend, Pete. And this led to both commissions for your writing for NME and Melody Maker, where you became a regular writer. Now, you were both record collectors and, huge music obsessives, but neither of you are really bona fide musicians at the time, and you played more records probably than instruments, I gather. So tell us, what first really led the two of you to a studio in Chiswick in 1988?
1988, yeah, we wanted to make an acid house record. This was, we thought, let's have a go. And Bob had met Richard Norris from The Grid at the time, and he'd lent us his Roland bass line. And we just thought, oh yeah, you just turn it on. Well, hey. And we got there, and there was no instruction manual. We're like, how did you do this?
It's famously very hard to operate. How Acid House happened in the first place. Yeah. We didn't realise that.
I don't think it ended up on what we recorded, did it?
Oh God, no, it's never come out. No. It was unlistenable.
We recorded lots of phone sex lines. Spent the whole day miking up the phone, I think, which is a proper old phone, and spent a fortune on sex lines.
As you do.
Yeah.
Or you had an excuse to, at least.
Yeah,
so there you go. But you were obviously into 60s, pop and rock and, and other music as well. But were you, and probably going to a lot of live gigs, like I was at that time. But were you also starting to go out to clubs? Was the whole kind of acid house scene and the second summer of love beckoning you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember going to just random clubs. I was quite intimidated by the whole atmosphere. I never went to Pshoom or anything like that. I wish I had, obviously.
Yeah, we both missed that.
We go to kind of like random clubs. We ended up, the first time we ever went on stage was Rage, which was quite a remarkable club for us to go on stage at, because obviously everything was like twice the speed of the stuff we were playing.
Yeah. Killed the vibe.
It was a legendary
And that was
club.
at Heaven, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was at Heaven.
Right,
yeah. And so you were going out to Heaven, but you were a little bit intimidated, you said, by like places like Shroom.
Well, I mean, I'm from, Surrey, and I wasn't...
the home counties.
I wasn't used to central London.
Right.
I used to go to clubs with Selena, didn't I, more than
you
did? Yeah. Bob's girlfriend, Selena, who's on the front of the album cover. We used to go off to clubs, but I sort of missed out on raves. I didn't actually go to any M25 type things.
I did.
Didn't know anyone who went.
You did, yeah. Why were they terrifying?
I don't know. I didn't like being in the middle of a field with a load of people who are completely out of their minds. Like fair rides and all this kind of thing. It was just awful. Anyway.
I do it all the time now.
Now I'm really into it.
Now you're fine with it. Now you're fine. Well, you connected with Moira Lambert from the indie band Faith Over Reason, and you recorded, famously, a Neil Young cover, Only Love Can Break Your Heart. First of all, how did you hook up with her? And then why did you choose that particular song?
We were just listening to a lot of Neil Young at the time, and we hadn't written any songs. We went in the studio, us two, went in the studio, and we'd never written a song in our lives. Went to Ian Catt's studio in Mitcham.
I believe Ian Catt's here tonight.
Ian.
He is.
He is.
Oh, there he is!
Where is he?
And so that was, it was as simple as we were listening to a lot of Neil Young. We thought of doing a song called Ambulance Blues off on the beach, which would have been a terrible idea. So luckily we chose something that was a lot easier. And I think Psychic TV had done a version of Only Love Can Break Your Heart, which I remember thinking sounded quite kind of cyclical, or would have suited a sort of a groove. So that's what we ended up doing. Moira, I think, was a friend of Dan's.
Dan, yeah, my brother Dan's friend. So we just, do you know any singers? That was it, really, wasn't it? But she didn't really like us.
That's why she didn't stick around then.
Well, I don't think she liked us, innit? She was a bit cold.
No. I mean, she had her own band. It was sort of a folk rock band. I think she just thought we were like desecrating a Neil Young song, and I can't really blame her.
Changing the time signature from 3/4 to 4/4 and everything.
I'm just paranoid, sorry.
But it's interesting because it's such a melancholic song. And do you feel that maybe inadvertently choosing that cover somewhat not even thinking about it, almost randomly, maybe set the tone for what Saint Etienne would become?
Yes, accidental. No.
I mean, I think the melancholy tone. I think
Yeah.
if we'd like had any idea what kind of songs we were going to write in the future, it would probably have been quite melancholic. I think it's a lot of the stuff we liked was sort of minor key, always was. So yeah, so I think I don't think it set the tone itself, but yeah, we started as we were meant to go on, I suppose. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Now, you brought this to Jeff Barrett, who is here. Jeff, do you want to raise your hand? We got to give Jeff Barrett a hand. I just want to say a little thing about Jeff. Jeff's one of my favorite people in the music industry, and I respect him hugely. He's been running an independent label for nearly 35 years, and he was just about to start Heavenly Recordings, and you played it for Jeff. Can you tell us a story about that?
We went to a pub in Shepherd's Bush. What was the pub?
Bush Ranger.
Bush Ranger, yeah, which was Jeff's local, I think. And yeah, it was a Walkman cassette. Give it to him. So we had to sit there, not listening. We had to sit there while he was listening to it, thinking.
Were you nervous?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never met him before. I think you knew him.
And you?
He's so intimidating.
Well, at that point, Jeff, we had no idea Jeff was about to set up a record label.
No.
It was like,
It was purely for advice, wasn't it?
yeah, he was a press officer and
At Creation Records.
at Creation, yeah, and Factory, and we thought he was like someone we trusted. And what do you think it is? Because we thought it sounded pretty good. Surprisingly, we surprised ourselves, and and he said, well, he took the headphones off and said, I'm about to start a record label. Can I put this out? We're like, yeah, okay. So it's like no going around the transit van or any of that business.
No.
Right.
No, we did get approached to me by Polydor, and the guy called it Only Fools Can Break Your Heart. So we didn't.
Well, I mean, the single comes out as a second release on Heavenly Recordings, and Andrew Weatherall also did a mix. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about Andrew? I expect you met him through Jeff.
No, I think I've met him before. I mean, I think he was always around. We used to go and see him DJ, and yeah, obviously Jeff knew him and had already got. No, of course, a load had come out at that point. He must have done. He must have done, yeah.
Yeah, it had, I think.
And so he was. I think he did the first Heavenly single as well. I think he did the Sly and Love Child single. I can't see
said
Jeff
he
in
did.
it. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. So like he was kind of like. Sandra Weatherall was very important in the early days of Heavenly for the label, and obviously getting a mix from him was great,
But when you went out to hear him DJ, did he also inspire you? Because he has a similar background in terms of he always was able to have that nice balance between rock, dance music, and loads of other influences as well.
Yeah,
Was
absolutely.
he someone
yeah,
that
yeah.
inspired you?
Oh, definitely, and he's really into psych and all sorts as well. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
brilliant DJ.
Yeah.
And making, the records he made is fantastic. So.
Screamadelica. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't do all of it, but a good deal of it. And it's another record along with this one that were really huge for me at that time, being straddling the indie side and the dance side. Now, Only Love Can Break Your Heart blows up during the summer, but as the record cover designer had made the barcode in pink, it didn't scan, so it kind of failed to chart, and it sort of sounds like a Peter Saville. Sounds like a Peter Saville New Order Blue Monday situation.
That's what we were going for, yeah.
Exactly.
We always try to emulate our heroes.
So you think? So what happened there? I mean, how did you feel about that? Because you're starting to hear it all over the place. I mean, what did it feel like when you first heard it on the radio?
Oh, amazing! That was almost that was the end point. When we'd made a record to get something on radio, it was almost you've done it. That's what you're about.
Yeah. I mean,
have a record.
Yeah, just seeing it reviewed and getting into indie chart, which felt like some kind of achievement at that point, was great. It was incredible. I mean, we really had no idea what we were going to do next because we hadn't written anything. So Jeff said after I think around the time the second single came out, he said, "You're going to have to do an album now." We're like, okay. So then we started writing some songs.
He said, you're going to have to play live as well. We're like, oh.
Right. Well, the next one you did was Kiss and Make Up with Donna Savage, who is from a New Zealand band called Dead Famous People.
Yeah, that's right.
How did you hook up with her?
I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Can't
Can't remember, no.
An email? No, joke.
I seem to remember you saying you liked her voice.
Oh yeah, no, we
That's what,
You said that in a way that's...
no, do you know what I mean? I think you'd heard her and thought, oh, I like that person. And then you approached her, is that right?
Well, the odd thing is, like, she was in a group called Dead Famous People, and I had a record out on Billy Bragg's label. And the person we really wanted to sing with us was Debsy, who was in another group on Billy Bragg's label.
She's here as well.
Yeah.
She's here.
Really?
Can't see her.
And we had no idea how to get in touch with her at that point. So we just got somebody who sounded a bit like Debsy.
How things could have been different, eh?
I know. You were talking, well, you covered the Field Mice song, Kiss and Make Up. And I did listen to their original, because I read that you like their original better now.
Yeah.
It's a very nice song. It's a nice,
It's very
really
nice,
nice.
yeah.
But you also had Stone, to say the least, already done at that time, or at least rudimentary, because you performed it at Rage.
Yeah.
And that one sounds to me like Fingers Inc. Distant Planet.
Is it?
Really sounds, is it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, good.
Oh, no, we never heard
That was another one of the records I was listening to all the time as well, and I was like, oh. So you were getting into like Chicago house, and were you starting to collect these records?
Yeah, and Detroit techno, those are the things we were listening to that were new at the time, and like you said, we're listening to lots of My Bloody Valentine and Slow Dive and sort of shoegaze stuff that was out then.
And we knew the Field Mice boys.
Yeah.
That's how we met Ian.
Yeah.
Because they recorded at Ian's.
Who recorded it?
Field Mice.
Oh, the Field Mice
And
did,
that's
yeah.
how
yeah.
we found Ian. So yeah, without the Field Mice, we would be nothing.
Got you.
No one's ever said that.
And now the lovely Sarah enters the picture. Tell us how she came into your lives.
Well, Selena, who was my girlfriend at the time, and is on the cover of the album, said, well, I think we just asked if she knew any singers, and she said, well, I know Sarah in Windsor. And the only record we had with her voice on, the only record we could find was you speaking in Spanish. The record you'd done with Douglas Benford.
Yeah.
And so and we thought her voice sounded lovely. Didn't know what a singing voice sounded like.
Didn't realise I wasn't actually fluent. I thought I was.
I wanted to crack the Spanish market.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what were you doing before, pre-Saint Etienne?
I'd been in bands since I was about 15, doing that. You know, I enjoyed music so much. I was always into buying records the day they came out and stuff like that. And I'd been in this band for years, and we kept getting really close. Different bands, but the same kind of line-up here and there. We kept getting really close to getting a deal, and then, you know, it would all fall apart. So I got a bit despondent, and I thought, well, my second favourite thing would be to be an actress. And so I went to drama school for a year, and then I did a couple of really crappy fringe plays in, you know, really dusty little venues, and then they got in touch, and then
We'd heard she was in
changed
Grange Hill,
everything.
so that
Oh well, yeah,
swung it a bit.
and that it just changed trajectory again.
Wow. Now, was the first song "Nothing Can Stop Us" that you recorded together? Could you tell us what that studio session was like? Did it feel like something was really clicking?
I think we'd started the song without the sample, the main sort of hook of the whole song. And I remember, like, we were just driving down Yorkshire Road where Ian's studio was, listening to a Dusty Springfield tape, because there was tapes in the car then. And this song, I Can't Wait to See My Baby's Face, came on just as we were pulling up. And we thought, oh, that's a good sample. Let's try that as soon as we get in there. And we did, and it worked. And so it's
driven at a different speed.
Good happenstance.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
So it's just that simple, like it was that kind of happenstance. It wasn't really that premeditated. It was just, oh, I just heard this like 5 minutes ago, and that's what we're gonna do today.
That was often our mode of
It
operating.
is.
Was, yeah.
Right. Spontaneity.
But I can't remember. It was obviously a bit weird at first because we didn't know each other very well. Well, me and Bob did, but Sarah obviously didn't know us, and so she was probably thought it was quite strange where we were recording and
I think
us.
it was more you, actually.
Sorry about Ian's face. It's mental.
I think the recording situation was, I'd been in, recorded in a bathroom before, so, that was okay. And recorded in small places and done stuff at home and stuff like that with my flatmate Mick. There was a bomb shelter an old bomb shelter in our backyard in Fulham where we were living, and he set it up as a recording studio. So I have recorded in some unusual places. It was more the fact that they used to sit there giggling, and I think, what are they laughing at? And then I'd get a bit paranoid and think, oh God, are they laughing at me? Oh, how awful. And then now I do the same, and there's all three of us sitting there like, giggling in a corner.
Yeah, I think Ian felt the same, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. These weirdos.
What did you feel that Sarah brought to the table when you heard her sing?
Well, she had an amazing voice. That was obvious straight away and didn't sound like anybody else. And we got on really well, which helped.
A big factor.
So,
Wasn't it?
yeah. So at that point, we had the idea of, which was sort of current in 1990, of having a different singer on every record. But when we started doing the album, we just asked Sarah to do pretty much all the vocals on the whole album. We did like a track with QT, who was great. That just came out as a single; it wasn't on the album in the end. But I think it was just like it just fitted really perfectly. It just made sense, so we stuck with it.
And did it feel like now you were no longer a project, but you were a group?
Yeah, it definitely became a thing, didn't it? Especially once we started doing photo shoots and things like that, videos together, and then live things and going abroad and all sorts. Yeah.
And also, to me, it also seems when you have like a one singer as opposed to a project with lots of different singers, it seems like there has like more of an emotional depth to the group in general. Would you agree with that? Do you think Sarah brought that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was like it just sounds like the three of us made the record with Ian.
It's much cheaper as well.
But I think it definitely had I can't imagine it having a bunch of different singers on it. It just sound very strange to me. But I mean, songs like Spring, I can't imagine anybody else singing apart from Sarah and myself. Yeah. It's like it just worked really well.
Now it sounds like things are kind of done on the fly, almost like I just heard this sample. I think we'll just use this 5 minutes later and turn it into their next single. But did you have an intention for the overall album of how you wanted it to sound or what you wanted it to be?
No, I mean it was like it was. We never thought we'd make another one, so it was like throwing everything.
Let's try and make enough tracks that aren't awful.
There was a lot of outtakes. I mean, they've all come out now, I think. But there was a lot of outtakes.
And what was it like, writing original material? Because now you're in the studio, you're writing songs. It's not just the first two records are covers, then you have an instrumental. That's a Fingersing tribute.
Yeah.
And so, were you nervous about writing songs, or how? I mean, you had a lot of confidence in some ways to just go in as still non-musicians, as you described yourselves. I mean, Sarah's a musician, me a singer, but they're the two of you.
Yeah, oddly, we didn't ask Sarah to write any songs with us on that album. It was, I think at that point we still thought it was the two of us, and it would be, when we recorded it, we didn't really know where it was going. So it wasn't until like the second album, and then obviously more and more as time went by, we started writing together. Okay. But on that one, I don't know how you felt about it, really. But...
I was just really happy to be involved because I loved it. I loved how everything sounded. I had bought Only Love Could Break Your Heart, so I was a bit like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. And I enjoyed the process. I liked the fact that things were kind of recorded a bit on the fly, because I like working like that myself anyway, just everyone in the room and people coming up with different ideas and things like that. I love that.
And we didn't really know what key to write things into.
No, that's
sometimes. So we'd have to slow down the whole backing track or speed it up.
Or just make me sing.
Yeah.
But I was singing some backing
Still don't really
vocals
know.
the other day on something else, something new that we're doing, and I was singing some backing vocals. It was so high, my ears popped. Oh my gosh. I may have a perforated eardrum, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Well, the wine glass is smashed.
Now, the studio setup, it was in Ian's mother's house in Pollard Hill. Council House in Mitcham. And you had a pretty rudimentary setup. Was it an Atari and an 8-track? Or?
It was a Fostex 8-track. Quarter-inch tape.
Quarter-inch tape. So it's four tracks.
Sold the whole studio and bought one decent microphone.
Amazing. Now, you also had, like, you know, so this is a very rudimentary studio. It's in your bedroom, I assume. It was
It was 2 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms. You had right.
It wasn't the bathroom that Sarah sang in.
Oh,
It was my bedroom.
I sang in the
Not many people can say that.
Not in the loo, but like in the loo. And I remember thinking the acoustics would be quite good. I'm imagining it. Do you know? I think you did. Maybe not all of them.
No.
Some of them.
But you had a special. Do you have a special kind of tape delay or reverb unit that you had constructed?
Yes, yeah. There's a few bits I made myself.
So you had some interesting little bits and pieces of homemade equipment to do reverb and things like that. So
There was cardboard tubes on the wall
oh wow!
in the corner.
How much do you
They
think
sounded great.
you spent on recording the entire album?
It was bloody expensive.
No.
I think just the tracks that were on the album probably cost about $4,000. I think we probably spent twice that actually recording because
We did go there a lot.
kept messing about, and trying new things. But one of the things I loved about Ian's attitude to recording and like building his own gear was we were big fans of Joe Meek and Phil Spector as well. So it felt like we were doing. That was about as close as we could get to doing, you know, working with someone who wanted to experiment and stick like mics in milk bottles full of water and things like that.
Yeah.
Was,
But Ian wasn't sniffy either, was he? Like
no.
most other places we went to, probably quite rightly, thought, "Who are these 2 idiots?"
We couldn't play anything.
And they were all it was all a bit rocky in those days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we came from sort of dancey indie type thing. 2 things they generally hated in studios.
Yeah, and also having that kind of DIY, like the punk aesthetic as well. You know, just giving it a go. It's like anybody can do this. You use a lot of samples on the record, and as we heard earlier, they weren't kind of overly considered. But was there a certain type of feeling that you were going for with the samples? Because sometimes I get a feeling of nostalgia with some of them because I recognize it faintly. Or how do you think?
I don't think it was nostalgia because I don't think any of us are particularly nostalgic. But I think we wanted to use the best things we could find, I suppose. And it didn't matter where they came from or when they came from.
It's just a case of hearing a loop sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's a Pet
Like
Shop
it,
Boys
yeah.
sample on there, which I think they know about, but we never cleared.
We know about it
They
now,
got a
don't
raised
they?
eyebrow once about that, yeah.
Just drums.
And you're cinema, film fans as well. So how did you express your love of cinema on this album?
Ripping off chunks of films. There's quite a lot. There's quotes and there's.
It's a bit of a David Mamet film, which obviously
Yes.
we never cleared. But again, like meeting you was like, obviously you had this incredible film background, so that was very exciting as well.
And we did a song called John Barry, but didn't end up on the album, did it?
No, I think it might be on the
It's on one of them.
CD.
Yeah.
I think it's come out now. It was pretty terrible. Trying to sound like John Barry with
Yeah,
a
he
song,
would
but it
have,
didn't
yeah.
really work.
You see, like Mickey from the Monkey's Head. Was that an influence at the time?
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
Yeah. Which films were kind of inspiring you at the time?
I'm trying to think. Well, definitely that. Yeah, we were into David Mamet at the time, which is why House of Games turned up.
And
I
Homicide.
think there's all sorts of stuff on TV then that was really good. I mean, Twin Peaks was a massive. That's not a film then, but that was a massive influence on us. We couldn't believe it. Really. It was like, oh, TV's become good.
Yeah.
And the music was just amazing. So we just spent ages trying to make things that sounded Twin Peaksy.
Yeah, well, I think the head soundtrack, as much as the film, was really influential. Because we knew that the story behind it, where Jack Nicholson just got like loads of dialogue from the film, cut it up, stuck it randomly between the tracks, and that was basically what we wanted to do.
Right.
The Who Sell Out was another one. It was like it was those were the two things we were like sort of going for with all the sort of skits between the tracks and things.
So how did the Who Sell Out influence the album?
Just the way it's got all the adverts between the songs. I think the first time we did a video collection, we really wanted to get some old adverts and put them between the videos. And obviously no one was going to entertain that idea.
No one's going to allow you to do that.
Would have been really, really hard to do. But yeah, I mean...
We used to do tapes for each other with little bits of adverts and clips. And they used to have really good music on adverts.
Yeah.
It's stuck in my head now. I sing them all the time.
Now, there's that little interlude, Wilson, with the Sweets really openly speaking of LSD and psychedelics.
Yeah,
Was
pounds,
this-
shillings and pence.
Pardon?
It's from a decimal currency record, so it's LSD is pounds, shillings and pence.
Oh,
But
there
we
I
thought,
was.
how
thinking
hilarious.
Something completely different. There's the American. Had no idea. Did you all know that? You did. I can't believe
Damn,
that.
I
I'm
got
like,
some
wow, this is so cool. Okay, let's skip that question.
Well, obviously, it had a double meaning. And then the character says pot at one point,
Yeah, it's.
which I guess was on there as well.
I absolutely love that one. So there you go. You fooled the Yank. Now, you said on many interviews that OMD's Dazzle Ships really influenced this album when you were putting it together. How so?
Again, I think, just having the sort of shorter instrumental bits. So it's probably only about half a dozen actual songs on Dazzle Ships, but it was one of our favourite records, and famously it tanked at the time, and it got terrible reviews, and we were the only people we knew at the time who liked it. And now they've done like reunion tours for Dazzle Ships, and
So it
people
seemed
think
like
it's
a good
fantastic.
business model then.
Yeah. We're always trying to copy these things.
Yeah, it was.
But I think This Is Radio Etienne is quite Dazzle Ships, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, would you say, you were saying before there wasn't like an overarching intention or theme to this album, but it's almost like more of like a scrapbook or a collection of ideas. How important was it to you to kind of wear your influences on your sleeve? Because that's kind of what we hear in this, from Chicago house to psychedelic music to Dusty Springfield and beautiful female vocals. And how important was it to you? Was it like an ode to some of your favorite obsessions?
Yeah, I think we were fans, and we weren't embarrassed to come across as fans of pop music. So the kind of the inner sleeve with the picture of a lot of the Monkees and Billy Fury and Madonna, whoever else was on the inner sleeve, were all people we really liked, and we wanted to be part of that gang.
It was a bit like an audio version of the fanzine we used to do,
Yeah.
in a way, which I'd never thought of.
And how about for you, Sarah?
For me,
Yeah.
well, I think that because we led slightly parallel lives, growing up just outside London and being fans of film and TV and 60s girl groups and all sorts of things. So I got it, basically. I mean, obviously I wasn't that involved in the creation of this record, but I got it. I understood it, because it's the sort of record I would have wanted to make in a band that I'd created myself. So yeah, I was very happy to be involved.
Yeah.
Basically.
Now, on the receiving end of this, when you hear the stories of how it was made, like we did this in this studio with that singer, we did this over here, we did that, we just thought of the sample, it does sound very cohesive to me. I mean, when you're on the receiving end and you don't know how it's all put together, why do you think it may sound cohesive to others?
No idea.
No.
You really don't think it doesn't sound cohesive to you at all when you listen to it?
No, I think some of the songs fit together, but I think some of the others, like the Fingers Inc. tribute, you know.
Right, exactly. Sorry.
Doesn't really fit with Spring or anything, but
there was definitely, sorry to interrupt, there was definitely that thing where it's like, you know, I got involved later on, but they had lots of ideas that they wanted to get on an album, and you sort of think, this might be the only one. So just like put everything on it, you know, that has come to mind in the past that you want to put forward and you want to celebrate. You know?
It's like everything from decades.
Yeah.
All at once, and then you have to do the next album. You're like, oh, now what are we going to do?
I suppose the only reason it would be cohesive is because, you know, you can try and take influences from wherever, but it's always going to be filtered through your ideas, I suppose. And I suppose that's where it ends up sounding like us. But we didn't really know that at the time. But looking back, you know, over several decades, that's probably what it was about.
Girl 7 is one of my favorites. And it has all these kind of London locations juxtaposed with kind of exotic locations like Sao Paulo and Costa Rica, and also very unexotic locations like Staten Island.
Sounded exotic to us.
Yeah, exactly. It sounded exotic.
It sounded exotic.
Staten Island.
Yeah, Staten Island definitely isn't exotic. I love it, but it's not exotic. Now, is this something like a love letter to London? And it's what writer John Savage in the liner notes calls a mental freedom, a transformation of the familiar.
He had a very good sleeve notes.
John's great.
I was just going to say the same thing.
He just makes it sound so smart, doesn't he? Like,
He makes sense of it for us. Yeah. He was great, actually. I mean, we got a lot of sample ideas from John. He was hanging out with him quite a lot back then. I'm trying to think. Can't Sleep would have come from. He used to make us like tapes of sort of dub albums that we couldn't get hold of, and
Filthy.
yeah. But I've forgotten the question.
He said a love letter to London and making kind of transforming, you know, there's a transformation of the familiar. Because you're placing these, you know, London locations like next to these other kind of exotic locations and unexotic locations as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose the London locations still sounded quite exotic to us because all three of us hadn't been in London that long. You know, we hadn't come from far away, but, you know, actually living in London, you've been in Windsor and we've been in Croydon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Places like, you know, like Haggerston sounded
I know.
exciting.
Like Haggerston's in there. Wow. It's not far from me. Spring is another fan favorite and one of my favorites as well. It's such a beautiful song, and it's when most of the album is quite melancholic. This is like a real moment of joy.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about that song when you were recording it, or some stories about that?
I loved singing it, and I still love singing it live. I just, like you said, it's sort of joyous and joyful. I mean, I didn't write the words. I did do the little ad-libs.
Right, yeah.
That's just an ad-lib. But it was great. Where did you get the word idea from?
I don't know.
You, really? No?
Well, I don't know. I mean, no, it was writing a...
Kind of.
Well, this seems very like promising, like a new season, new love, and
Yeah.
something.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's just
Producers, what do you think?
She's the One is a great studio production. It's a great breakbeat, bass line. Can you tell us a little bit about the making of that one?
Yeah,
Can you remember?
that was no. I mean, well, one of the break pieces of the Pet Shop Boys is just being boring, which was like a brand new record at the time. So we took a loop from that. I'm trying to think what else is on it. The bass line, I think maybe Ian came up with the bass line.
Ian?
Yeah, Ian played
He doesn't
quite
know
a
either. There's a great uncleared sample on it.
Yeah, which we won't mention. Yeah.
And you were talking earlier about like the Swallow, and that one I can really hear My Bloody Valentine all over that. So you're listening to, you're big fans of Kevin Shields.
Yeah, definitely. I mean that's why it's funny that people think it's cohesive, because to me, starting side 2 with sort of a quite obvious Chicago house pastiche and ending it with something that's trying to sound like My Bloody Valentine is not going to make a cohesive record. But you never know what you're doing, how other people hear it. You never have any kind of any control over that. Once something's out, then it's not yours anymore. Which is great, It's people can read whatever they want into it. I love that.
I suppose people from our generation at that time, we were listening to a lot of different kinds of music. It seems like people kind of in the 90s got a bit more focused into a specific genre, even if it's like a certain type of house music, never mind just house in general. People were listening to shoegaze and listening to hip hop and listening to house and listening to...
Yeah, hip hop we haven't even mentioned. Like De La Soul was a massive influence on this.
That's right. So I know, it kind of helped influence Nobody Can Stop Us?
Yeah, that was the structure of I Know is basically the same as the structure on Nothing Can Stop Us. And I can say that without embarrassment, to know the Manics got Motorcycle and Emptiness by copying the structure of Dancing Queen. Just take the structure of another good record, you're going to end up with something that's half decent, I think.
That's how we were learning, to write songs.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Martin Fry's band ABC announced when they embarked in the early 80s on their musical career that they wanted to soundtrack the 80s. Did this idea inspire you? Because I think you mentioned somewhere in an interview you wanted to soundtrack the 90s. Yeah,
it was a total steal of Martin Fry.
Exactly.
But also knowing that he hadn't done it, because obviously it was 1990s, we knew they hadn't done it. But I thought it was a funny thing to say so that people could also point at us and say, we didn't do it, did you? Got 18 months in and then gave up.
Yeah, the soundtrack a month in 1991.
What would the 90s sound like to you in the beginning of the 90s? What did you think it was going to sound like?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there was so much going on. I think 1990, like you were saying, it was like there was,
brilliant, yeah.
And there wasn't really any kind of. It felt like a period where there was like no real snobbery about listening to any particular music, which was like really liberating. And as you said, the 90s progress and people into house get into like micro genres, and obviously Britpop was a very solid lump of music that was didn't really let any light in.
That's a good.
The early 90s was quite exciting.
Now, one thing I find interesting with Saint Etienne is, when former music journalists start bands, I'm thinking of Neil Tennant and I'm thinking of Morrissey, who was writing a lot. There's acerbic wit and there's a certain wryness or cynicism that finds its way into lyrics, because we know the British press is very good at cynical reviews. I mean, I remember reading them in America thinking, oh my gosh, in America everyone's so nice, Well, they try to be, or not, but maybe not all of them, obviously. But when the British press was really fun to read the reviews, because you were laughing so hard, but they were really digging. So when you have people like Neil Tennant or Morrissey, you can hear this acerbic wit in the lyrics. It could be very cutting, and you don't hear that in Saint Etienne. It's very, very, very joyous. That attitude is not present at all. It's just. Do you feel that Saint Etienne is more earnest, in a sense?
I think we're glass half full. I don't know about earnest. Earnest sounds like you're trying to. But yeah, I think we're all pretty positive. The reason we're all still friends and the group's been going as long as it has, I think, is because we're all pretty positive, and so there's never really been too much niggle involved at all. You know, it's yeah, I'd say pretty positive.
Now.
Contractually obliged to say that.
And let's talk a little bit about the packaging of the album, because you had the trading cards in there. We were seeing some slides before. And how important was it to you to have really, like, how involved did you get with the packaging? And what were your ideas on what the artwork would be like and how it would manifest itself in record shops?
I guess it was similar, wasn't it, in the sort of fan club, fanzine idea of trying to get as much in as we could. We definitely wanted to have an inner sleeve, definitely wanted sleeve notes, which not everyone did then. Just little things like that, you know, and I mean, I don't know why we ended up with a picture on the back. I think it's awful. But
I think it's
apart
great.
from that,
God, I'm slightly concerned about that picture.
Where the hell did that come from?
it's the,
I don't remember that one.
That's great. Oh, Lord.
remember that condom
My children
campaign?
are here as well.
It's a great photo. It's really great.
Me and Bob looked
Crikey.
Well, 33 and nearly a third years later, I want to ask each of you how you feel about Foxbase Alpha today, starting with you, Sarah.
I'm so fond of Foxbase Alpha. You know, we've made how many? 1 gazillion albums. And I like the innocence about it. I think you said that word earlier. I like the spirit. I like the little bits of melancholy. And I like the eclecticism. So the fact that there's so many different genres of music and stuff going on. And I love playing it live, so we've done that whole, you know, touring the record live. I also love what Richard X did with it when he did Foxbase Beta. Anyway.
How about you, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fond of it. It sounds like it reminds me of a very specific time and place, which is kind of what we were going for when we made it. Really, I think it's quite a lot of references to things, you know, like World of Twist or someone, yeah, like someone who was things that were very of the moment, and I think that was the intention, and that's kind of stood up. But I think, you know, it just reminds me of being. We felt like kids at the time, so it feels like being a kid listening to it. It's yeah, I think pretty much every record we've done since is more cohesive to me. But it's no, I'm very fond of it. Yeah.
And you, Pete?
Yeah, and like you say, it was a scrapbook, really. And it's like looking back at an old photo album. If you hear it, I can't separate it from not that I can remember much, but from the times and, you know, us being excited about being able to make a record and me giving up a job and just going, oh, we're in a band now, you know, that stuff. And it's just so tied into it that, you know, it's like looking at pictures of your kids or something. It's a bit like that. But, you know, I don't think it's, you know, like, I don't think, oh, no, we didn't do, that was it, you know, that our pinnacle in a way, which is good, I think.
Well, let's give a hand to Sarah, Bob, and Pete. Right now we're going to have a listen to the album, beginning to end. They're not going to stay on the stage and hear what
We're going to mime to it.
Yeah.
But what I am going to ask is you turn your phones to silent, put them away, turn them off, maybe. And let's listen to this record without having a conversation. Let's listen to this record by closing our eyes and just really giving yourself over to the music. And after it finishes in 47 minutes' time, Sarah, Bob, and Pete will come back and we'll open up the floor for you to ask your own questions. So, off you go. And let's have a listen. Thank you. everyone. Great, we walk back in on this one. We love it. We love it.
The chances.
Thanks, Paul.
Exactly. So, do you all enjoy that? Thank you. So we have a few wandering mics, I believe. Who would like to ask the band a question? This person right here. So you have a great. Is that mic? Yeah, there's a mic. We have one microphone there, one there, and this one
Hello.
down here.
Hi. How are you? Thank you very much. Okay, I'm just standing now.
Thank you.
First, I want to say thank you for all this amazing journey and music I enjoyed my entire life, actually, since I heard the first time your song Only Love Can Break Your Heart in Beverly Hills at the frozen yogurt store in Los Angeles, where I used to work as a student. And I had to walk across the road to the Warehouse record store, and I said, what is that song? Only Love Can Break Your Heart. So we had to sing. There was no mobile phone, nothing. So with that song, I drove all the way up to Vancouver to get out of the desert and of the plastic in order to reach more Great Britain. The London's feeling you got to cross there. And I even wrote a fan letter where I got a response. Thank you very much for that.
Was it a rude one?
And then I came back to Europe, and we even both met in London in Soho, and we went out for dinner without you, Sarah.
Oh.
Typical.
Oh.
No.
I remember it well.
So I don't know if you remember me.
Yes.
All back in the 90s. Now my question.
Sorry, time's up.
I really enjoyed the Richard X work on that first album, and I would still want to wonder if there will be a follow-up on the So Tough album. That would be a brilliant idea. Do you plan something like that?
No.
No. One question, short answer.
We haven't talked about it.
Another question?
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Over here.
We did like what he did. Oh.
Yeah, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going again.
No,
I
thanks.
was welling up. At the beginning of that. And this album and the music you've made has just been so important to me since 1990. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you. And I have a very similar story to you. I grew up in the home counties, and London was a magical place that I always wanted to be. And I've been here, kind of knocking on 35 years now. And this music has kind of been the soundtrack of that. But the question I wanted to ask you is...
Oh, God.
You're going to get a one-word answer.
You talked a lot about, going into the studio to make this album. You weren't musicians. You never made music. You told that great story about having the synth and you didn't know how to switch it on. And I'm listening to that album again, having heard those stories, and there's so much music in it. How on earth did you do that? Like, are you playing on that
It was
record?
Ian.
It's all Ian. It's all Ian.
Ian played pretty much everything on
Right.
the album. It's like, we could at the time, and Pete's an accomplished musician with a degree now,
Yes.
but I'm not. And at the time, we would just give him really basic ideas, and then he'd actually make music out of them.
Yeah.
That was
Badly.
it, really. It was all in our heads.
Badly sing melodies.
So you kind of had the idea to how you wanted it to sound. You told it Ian, and he would like go a bit like that, and you go, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we could take records in of to give him an
Yeah.
idea of how we wanted it to sound.
Wow.
And sometimes it did.
We weren't restricted by musical theory.
I'm very glad that you weren't. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers.
Any other questions?
Oh.
Good. We have quite a few. Why don't we start over here?
Oh,
and then there.
Not my...
Can I just echo what that guy said as well? Sort of like, again, you've soundtracked, I mean, we're from the home counties, that love of London, and I think it comes across like in your music, that sort of like that magical place, and I think you do the capital proud, even though, like you're saying, you're not from there. My question is, there's obviously been a massive dance influence in your stuff. Do you have a favourite remix?
Of one of our songs?
Yeah.
Oh,
well.
Love that one.
I mean, in general.
Well, I love the PFM. Oh, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just saying the same thing.
PFM.
PFM, the
C.
C. So brilliant.
Which is a sort of
That's my
drum and bassy. Kids. But obviously, Andy Weatherall was amazing in that kind of, probably gave us a lot of, impetus.
And the chemicals on Like a Motorway.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Lovely. Is a question?
Yeah, hello there. My name's Jeff. This is my son Josh. I first heard the album. I was 24. Now I'm here with my son Josh. He's 22. He's found the music independently of me. So, are you aware that it's like transcended the generations now and become like a timeless album?
Oh, well, that's amazing. Yeah. I
very
mean,
nice
my
to
son's favourite band is Suede. But it's a similar thing in a sense that, it's that kind of period. He loves 90s music, yeah. He obviously likes us as well. Yeah. But no, it's nice, with the last few gigs we did, we saw some...
What, younger people?
People with hair. Yeah, that's right.
Younger audience as well now.
Yeah.
Question there?
Hi, thank you. Hopefully not too deep and geeky, but Sarah, you wrote the song Paper, didn't you?
Yeah.
If I read rightly, was that before you joined the band, or mostly wrote part of the song?
It was.
And it has the coda in it, only love can mend a broken heart.
Yeah.
And I did wonder, were you harking back to the Neil Young song, or you later then joined the band and something really serendipitous or some weird cosmic influence comes in, or was it just when you actually started recording it, put it together? If you can remember this, was it just you referenced back to the main song?
And it was not connected.
Weird, just some weird sort of strange universal influence going on there.
I think you're right. I think maybe, serendipitous, as you said. It's like, that's interesting you bring up that song. It's a bit
Very weird how
that
it all...
isn't it?
It's almost meant to be, wasn't it?
Well done for spotting it.
Yes,
Yeah.
God, I'd never even thought of that.
With Maurice D-Bank, wasn't it?
Yeah, Maurice D-Bank, who, because I was a massive Felt fan, and I got Maurice in to come and play guitar on it. Because originally, I can't remember how I recorded it originally. I think it was just literally a few keys on the keyboard and me singing, and got Maurice D-Bank in, but...
Did you write it yourself, or was it one with Mick?
No,
Do you remember?
It's one I wrote myself. Hooray for
Thank
me.
you for that. It's a brilliant song and a brilliant version as well on what later was on. Was it a B-side of Avenue, or
God, was it?
You're in a Bad Way, maybe?
You might be, what?
You'll know.
But quality version.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Does anyone in the audience know?
Ian?
The question? Oh, yeah, right there. Yeah.
Thanks. I grew up in Tooting and Sutton, and I remember reading about you and thinking, they don't sound like they came from Croydon. I mean, to what extent... Well, I mean, you just sounded so shiny and joyful, and it didn't sound at all... Sorry, Croydon, but it didn't sound at all like Croydon. So, to what extent, if at all, would you say you're influenced by growing up in the suburbs, just on the cusp of London?
Oh, a lot, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, people from Sutton and Bromley never say anything good about Croydon. So no, absolutely. I mean, London, like we were saying earlier, London felt like somewhere that was almost imaginary. You go to gigs there in the evening, but you wouldn't. You then come back to Croydon after that. So you go to the venue of Victoria was very easy to get back from, the Lyceum. But I never spent any real time in London until I was in my 20s, really.
Yeah. Apart from gigs, yeah. That was
Yeah, just gigs, yeah.
But yeah,
Clothes shopping.
we used to kind of have a weird love-hate relationship with Croydon because it felt quite small-minded in the 80s, you know. It's quite sort of... Yeah,
Well, we went to the Underworld.
Yeah, that was all right. That was a good place.
Saw Prefab Sprout and
We had
Garbage
Beano's.
Bins there, remember that?
Beano's record store was amazing. But you'd go and have your hair cut and the guy would be a total racist and stuff like that. And cab, you know, and it was all Margaret Thatcher. You know.
The pubs are all incredibly rough. You couldn't go to a pub in central Croydon. Not a single one.
But if we looked a bit Smithsy when we were sort of 18, 19. We had sort of big hair, didn't we?
yeah, well, quiffs, yeah.
Yeah.
You had the
That's what they were
biggest,
called.
Oh, I did, yeah, quiffs. But yeah, you could get beaten up for things like that in Croydon.
Is there another question?
Did that answer your question? Sorry.
No, sorry, I was going to... No, I was just going to say that, like, because I grew up just outside Windsor, so I was actually closer in a way, I think, possibly, certainly to West London, and I just saw London as this shining beacon of like fun and adventure, and like had to be there as often as possible. And I moved to London when I was 17. I just couldn't wait to go, really, and to be. Prior to that, I was always going to like Kensington Market and going to gigs. I was talking earlier to our manager Martin, who's in the audience, about going to see like Susie and the Banshees, supported by Carmel at the Hammersmith Palais. God knows how long ago that was, but I was always going to gigs in London and things. It's just like a magnet, you know.
Me and Bob used to go to a pub in Norbury just so we could say we'd been uptown.
New Cross as well. Yeah. New Cross and Norbury.
Just across the border.
Is there another question? Here?
Sadly true.
Great shirt.
This has been great. There's another American here.
Did you know about the LSD?
I didn't. I'm actually pretty boring.
It's in the water.
So I'm here visiting, so this came to fruition like just last Friday. So if John is in the room, I want to say thank you. And thank you as well. So I'm going to try to narrow down the dozens of questions I have. I've met you all in Chicago, and you were lovely just as much then as you are now. Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
I've still got your things.
What the hell was my question?
The answer is no.
So as great as Foxbase Alpha is, I don't have to tell anyone in the room that. What's in the future? Because I know there's been hints about new music, so I can't not ask.
We've been quite busy, haven't we?
Yeah, we've been pretty busy. We've got an album out just before Christmas. And then we're working on another one. We're going to try and get out next summer. If we can, we've got to get it done by the end of November.
Wow.
They're both very different from each other.
Yeah, they're very different from each other, yeah.
How are they different from each other?
Wouldn't you like to?
One's rotten. The first one's very ambient, and the second one isn't.
One copy.
Can I sneak one more in?
Yeah.
So since the character of Saint Etienne came out 2 years ago, and I loved the F out of that, I keep repeating Broken Bricks. What's that about?
Oh,
it is quite mad.
Is that one of yours?
Yeah. It was this.
Oh, no, sorry.
This guy called Nick Moon that we wrote that with, who collaborated on Heather as well, which was on that album. No, yeah, Home Countess, yeah. But yes, I don't really know what it's about.
There's a story.
Kind of a stream of consciousness kind of thing. That gets me out of.
No, you did the music for that, and he did the lyrics.
He did the words. So
Oh, he
so
did.
we don't really know anything.
Well, thank you. I won't further monopolize.
Yeah, we've got no ideas.
Good question.
Niche question.
Any other questions? You heard?
Hello.
Hello, Keith.
I'm worried now.
No, not at all, right? This is kind of like a not really in keeping with Foxbase Alpha. However, like, personally speaking, I think that one of your best ever remixes is a Baby Portable, which was like for the Japanese band. And like, I was just wondering, like, two things. One, how did it come about? It's a three-part question, kids. Secondly, who played the bass on that? Because it's the nuts. And like,
what remix?
Baby Portable.
Who?
Who played the bass on that?
What record are you talking about?
Baby Portable, like stereo Baby Portable, like you did it, didn't you? Shibuya.
I don't remember it.
I think that there was a mass blackout going on with Saint Etienne sometime in 1997.
We're very old.
Yeah, wow.
I like the fact you're trying to sabotage.
I'd like to hear it.
Do you remember the track, though?
We actually don't.
You don't, do you?
Yeah.
At all whatsoever?
No.
Right. In that case, kids, like, coming on to my next question, it's a very personal question. Pete, could you recommend any new artists that you've seen recently in Brighton?
Yeah. He was very good, actually. Yeah. Drunk Keith. Terrible name. You were very good. It was really good. No. It's probably Etienne de Crazy or something. I've had that before. One of my daughter's friends, she said, "Oh, my dad knows your band. He's really into you." I was like, "Oh, that's good." And then I met him, and he was like, "Saint-Germain." Awkward.
Oh, that's great. Is there any other questions right here?
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Just want to say first and foremost, thank you for, I'm sure this is echoed by everyone, thank you for soundtracking our lives in every which way. From, in my perspective, from Only Love Can Break Your Heart to Hug My Soul, which I've played quite frequently, losing my dad 5 years ago. And also, one video escaped me. But anyway, just wanted to ask you out of curiosity, the name Saint Etienne, when I first Googled it, in my teens, it came up French football club. Obviously, they wear white and green. And obviously, with the Foxbase Alpha album, the branding of Etienne is in green. What's the connection between your name and obviously south of France? Was there some sort of fascination with the south of France or just French culture in general?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was just, it seemed very exotic and romantic. France generally, even though it's so close. When we were growing up, and I think it was Saint Etienne, the football club, did well in the European Cup, got to the final, and had like these amazing players and really good kit, where with the green shirts and the white shorts that no other English club seemed to have, apart from maybe Plymouth. Not so exotic.
We're going to call ourselves Staten Island.
But yeah, it was as simple as that. It was like a very sort of provincial idea of like a very romantic, exotic location. And I think Saint Etienne town is like it's like the French version of Sheffield. You know, it's a steel town, so it's like not very exotic at all. But
sounds cool.
It does sound cool. Yeah, it was just a good name. And I mean, there's something I'll say about. I sound like we're showing off now. I remember Andrew Weatherall, when he did Boca Junior, said, "You bastards, you pinched the best name." He had to pitch the name of another. He took the name of another football club. So I was quite pleased about that.
But people thought when we first put records out, we were on Saint Etienne on Heavenly. They thought we were like a Christian rock band.
Brilliant. I never made that connection. Question over there.
Thank you. I've actually remembered the other song, How We Used to Live.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hi, hello. So of course we always romanticize and fetishize the past, and you guys were making music in London or close to London at a time when it seemed easier, and it was definitely cooler and okay to be an underdog and be a bit, you know, all that sort of stuff. What advice would you give to young people today? I mean, you mentioned, you know, people here have mentioned their kids are into your music again. It's pretty tough to be a creative in London.
Yeah, it must be.
It gets worse.
When we were, you know, I say kids, but that sort of early 20s, you could actually afford to live in London. You know, pretty much anyone could decide, oh, I can get it, you know, even if it's on the fringes, I can get a flat in London. And now it must be very hard. I can imagine.
Well, none of us can afford to live in
No,
London.
true, yeah. Actually, there's a restraining order.
No, I'd recommend going somewhere else, like Glasgow or Leeds or Liverpool, or there's plenty of really exciting cities in Britain. If you want to come to Britain, go to from another country and go. I wouldn't recommend living in London.
No, it's probably
plenty going on. I was spending the last couple of weeks in sort of near the new Everton ground in Liverpool, which was like just miles and miles of derelict dockland for years, and now there's like art spaces and all kinds happening there. It won't be for long, you know, because it'll all get turned into like flats and stuff after a while. But it was really exciting.
Yep, John. Yep. 2 more questions. You go.
Thank you for tonight. This has been fantastic. I hope this question makes sense, but I was wondering if, so listening back to the album, which still sounds fantastic, Stone to say the least, which I always forget how great a song that is, but it really reminded me of a couple of tracks of my favourite album of yours, Tiger Bay, specifically Urban Clearway and Cool Kids of Death. And I was wondering if there's any songs from Foxbase Alpha that you've directly returned to when kind of creating new material over the years.
Good question.
That is a good question. We'd probably go back to the same kind of source material. So I think, you know, like the stuff on Tiger Bay was definitely influenced by Detroit techno.
And say Western Wind was a bit like Stone to say the least, ripping ourselves off.
But yeah, I suppose we weren't looking back on what we'd done.
No.
Same influences
Yeah.
inspired that. But yeah, I think Stone to say the least is quite an outlier on the first album, and we certainly went back to that kind of those influences on the later records. Tiger Bay in particular, yeah.
Well spotted.
Well spotted, yeah.
And last question here. Oh, you got the mic. Sorry, the last question there. Sorry about that.
It's more a question for Bob and Pete. Sorry, Sarah, but the Ace Records compilations, like, they're so eclectic. Like, where do the ideas come from for those, and then what have you got in future for those?
For the Ace compilations.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've both been working on compilations for Ace Records for about the last 8-9 years now. We did a taste.
To come up with the idea, don't you?
Yeah. We'll talk through them, won't we? And you've come up with ideas as well. It's doing yourself. Really, I mean, like, it's just from like Pete was saying earlier. When we were teenagers, we used to make tapes for each other and put little link bits in between of like adverts or daft jingles or whatever. And that's kind of what influenced Foxbase Alpha. And I think what we're doing for Ace is kind of an extension of that. It's like it's putting together, you know, instead of like making a C90 for each other, we're actually making proper records with sleeves and artwork, which we can pick, which is absolutely a dream come true. So, yeah, hopefully it'll stay afloat long enough for us to keep doing some more. But we've done one called New Jill Swing, which is kind of like New Jack Swing, but all the sort of female acts. Which was definitely a phrase I remember from the times. Somebody at A said, "No one ever said that." It was like, yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. I can't find any documentation, but they definitely did. I wouldn't have invented it. But yeah, so it's great fun, and hopefully that will continue. I mean, as long as they'll keep putting the things out and they keep selling, we'll keep doing them. But it really is a lot of fun.
I think that's all we have time for this evening. Just a reminder, Saint Etienne have a new album coming out in December and then another one in June. They're doing like the 2-album contract like they used to do in the 1960s,
like
putting out 2 a year, you know. So there's a lot to look forward to there. I want to thank the British Library for having us back here. And I also want to thank Ian from Downley for putting up the sound system and helping with the sound system and these Downley speakers. And I also, of course, want to thank the band, Sarah, Bob, and Pete.
Thank you everyone for coming. Anyone would want to come to this concert.
And also, most of all, I want to thank all of you for coming here tonight, for your questions, and also for listening and just for being fans of music, because you are the people that keep the music business going and music going. So thank you.